I'm sure that even for those of you who have studied the Shoah in schools, this is a chapter that is new to you, and I'm sure that the impression that you've just had now is as deep and as disturbing as it is for me who knows a bit about it, and that you probably have questions, many questions that you want to ask. And so there are microphones on both sides of the gym here, and if you would like to line up and ask questions, Father Desbois would be happy to answer them. So please come up.
If somebody wanted to join you and your team, how would they go about doing it?
That's a very good question, and you are at the age to raise that question. I have here cards where I'm sorry that you didn't see the address of the website, because the first thing is to join us through the website, yaradinunum.org, and your teachers should give you the connection. So it depends what you want to do. If you want to come to a field work, you must join in my team. I can tell you, everybody is young. Even my assistant that I will employ now is 23. So it's a very young team. You can join Patrice or somebody from my team and say, I would like to join. You can make also internship during summer in Paris, translating archive or look. It depends also if you speak another language or not, because I know that in Canada, many people speak another language. Where are you from?
Here in Winnipeg.
You're in Winnipeg. And so join us, and I would say we will see how to do, because there are different activities. There are activities on the ground, on the field. Some teams will be in English, some teams are in French, so you can be very welcome.
Je pourrais t'aider avec français aussi.
Merci beaucoup. Yeah, but I know it's one of the possibilities of Canada. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, merci.
Yes.
Hi, I was wondering, since you've been doing this, how many massive graves have you discovered?
We have, because I'm not alone, we have interviewed 3,300 farmers who saw the shooting. We have found the mass grave of 1.2 million Jews, and it stays 1 million. Altogether, they shot 1 by 1, 2.3 million.
Thank you.
But I found also 60 extermination sites of gypsies. And now we have built a team of Roma, of gypsies, who drive the interview. We have also found mass grave of Grand Famine by Stalin. It's not the key point of our topic, but we interview very old people who saw that. So we have also found, I think, 50 extermination sites of Grand Famine. And actually, many countries would like us to do the same job in other countries. So we have begun to do the same job in Guatemala. So actually also, if somebody speaks Spanish, he can help us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How did you handle listening to all these stories and looking at all these graves? How are you able to cope with learning all this?
It's not always easy, you are right. Sometimes we don't sleep well, because when you see the story, then they remember the name. By example, I remember one girl, she was in love with a Jew, and the family didn't know. So when they put the Jew in the ghetto, she was Russian. So she put a star every day, and she went in the ghetto to be with his boyfriend, whose name is Samuel. And she brought food in the ghetto every day. But suddenly it was the day of the shooting, and she didn't know. She was thinking they go to Palestine. So she put her star, and she joined the line. And her mother opened the window, and she saw her line, her daughter with a star. So she ran, she took her. And I asked to this old lady now and say, and after? And she told me, I never saw back Samuel. So she was speaking still like a teenager in a corpse of an old lady. And I would say for that it's very moving. So I encourage the people who work with us to see a psychologue, to have somebody to speak. Because it's really people were very near from death. So I always say, if you work with me long time, be careful.
Like, why do you do it? Like, I understand that it's important, but why do you do it specifically?
You know, sometimes, my grandmother was helping refugees in her farm. We were in a very small farm far away. And I asked my grandmother, among the people you have saved Jews? And she told me, why? I would have asked them if they were Jews or not. And it was finished. So I am from a simple family. Sometimes you do what you have to do. Perhaps one day in your life you will see that you have to do something to change the world. And everybody around will tell you, why do you want to change the world? Me, I always ask to the others, why you don't want to change the world?
Mr. Desbois, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of all the students and other guests present here today for coming here to Winnipeg and speaking to us. And also, I just have a couple of questions. How come there is so little proper documentation or evidence under the Soviet rule in the eastern regions?
So that's a good question. Before going in the village, you are right, we work with archives. So we have two types of archives. I have two young people working in the German archives. So they work in Germany and they collect the archives of people who have been put on trial or local people who testimony. They send that to Paris. After, I have somebody who works with Soviet archives. In Soviet Union, after liberation, if we can call it liberation, they went in every village to make investigation. So in the beginning we say, can we believe the Soviet? Because they did a lot of propaganda. But the Soviet, they have the tradition to keep all the lays. So they have the first version from the village, signed by the priest, signed by the Jews, 16 million of pages, written by hand. So I have somebody in the Holocaust Museum of Washington since 5 years. Every day he makes that. He's scanning the document and sent to Paris. So we have these two kinds of documents before going, the Soviet document and the German document. So we can crisscross and after see the witness.
Also, I have another question which may be sensitive, but one of, Yehad and Nun's primary goal is to combat Holocaust denial. So why is Holocaust denial so prominent in Arabic countries at the moment? And
that's a very good question. If you go on the deniers website, I am always unfortunately on the front line. They try to attack me because I bring back evidences. I have one team actually in Ukraine, and they just sent me a phone call today from Kiev. First, you must understand, in my country it's special, in France, because the deniers are forbidden by law. So if somebody in France is denier, he goes to jail. So we have much less denier. But I know that in the world there are a lot of deniers. The first deniers, historically, they were not people like today. They were Himmler and Heydrich, the two right hand of Hitler. They said, we will deny it. So they tried to destroy every paper, every photograph, etc. It didn't work. We have 400 photographs of mass shooting. And after this generation of deniers, where the SS themselves who did the genocide, new people arrived with tie, with white shirt, and say it didn't exist. Me, I never met a denier who likes the Jews. They are not intellectual, they are anti-Semite. They follow the SS, they follow the job by paper. And today the chief of the denier in the world is Ahmadinejad. He made in Tehran the biggest meeting of all the deniers from all the country. It's the only case. So me, I was thinking, it's strange. He's living in Middle East, and he's very interested in the Holocaust. Why? Why this guy who is president from a big state, he has to invite all the deniers? He's not an historian. He's not a specialist of Ukraine. I don't know if he speaks German or Russian. Why is he so interested in the Holocaust? But he didn't invite historians. He invited only deniers. So it's a new strategy to delegitimize the people of Israel and the Jewish people, but it's the same for other genocide. If you speak in Rwanda, if you see the Hutu, they never did a genocide. If you are with Armenian, you see the Turkish, no genocide. The only country we recognize they did a genocide is Germany. And I always say when I speak to high-level people, realize they recognize what they did, and today they are a very wealthy country. It doesn't destroy a country to recognize its faults. But in most of the case, the country who did the genocide deny it. So the deniers is a kind of collection of people who are the sons of Himmler and Heydrich, whatever they are from. And they are not intellectual. They don't study. They never ask me one paper and say, oh, perhaps it's true. So in Arabic country, it's not everywhere. Me, by example, I made 8 conferences in 8 Islamic universities of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a small state in Caucasus, and they asked us to make the first symposium about Holocaust in Azerbaijani, and it was like today, full of students, all Muslim. So don't think that all Muslim people are deniers. And I think we'll be asked to do the same thing in Kazakhstan. And I have a friend, she drives a foundation to teach Holocaust in Arabic countries. I know a girl, she makes a PhD about Holocaust and she's Turkish. So it's not everybody, but it's sure that today it's used as a political tool to try to delegitimize the Jews in Israel. It's very classic. But never forget, a denier is not an intellectual, it's a propagandist, it's an anti-Semite. And if he was living during the war, he would be with the SS.
And my last 2 questions. Just what makes you so dedicated? Like, how do you do this? Because obviously this is a very dark thing to research, and also I suppose this kind of goes in with this question as well, but how come it took so long for somebody like you to come and do this sort of research? Because it's invaluable.
You know, in my team, I'm Catholic priest, the CEO is evangelical, other people are Christian Orthodox, other are non-believers, but we are sure we don't want a world who builds democracy on mass graves. We cannot go on killing people and say after there is a new country. Otherwise, it undermines all our Christian, Jewish, humanist values. Because we see, and so we do that also to help Ukraine, to help Poland, to help other countries to build democracy with recognition of what happened before. And surely also, for the believers, we have read the Bible. And you know that in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, Cain is killing Abel. The first brother is killing his brother. And God asked to Cain, where is your brother? And me, I think in my faith, since I am a child, I hear to this question of God, where is your Jewish brother? Where is your gypsy brother? Where is your Guatemaltec brother? Isn't there the forest in the fields, anywhere like a dog? And you remember God said at the end, don't you hear that the blood of Abel, the victim, is climbing from earth until heaven? And I think The common point between us and between most of the people who work against genocide, we don't accept that. We don't accept to ask evil to keep silence. And, you know, don't think I work to find 1 million Jews. I work because I don't accept that today, it's Rick, 4 years, shot in this village, is like a dog in a field. Nina, 4 years and a half, killed in Simferopol. The family saw the killing. She was naked only with her shoes, and she was freezing. So she said to the German, please give me back my coat, I give you my shoes. And they shot her, 4 years and a half. We do that for them. Because unfortunately, tomorrow in the TV, you will hear somebody named with other name, 4 years, 6 years, will also be killed. Genocide is a disease. We must heal humanity. Otherwise, tomorrow, perhaps you, perhaps me, we will be in a field also like a spectator.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Dubois.
I was just wondering, like, it's a dark area that you researched, but I was wondering why/what made you want to research it?
My question is why there are so few people who do it. My question is how you can think that under your feet there is another population who has been killed because they were born Jews or born Gypsies or whatever, and you say it's okay, it's the past. I will give you an example. I was in Costa Rica one day. I love animals. So I was visiting a reserve of parrots, and I love the parrots. And so the guy was playing with this red parrot and this yellow parrot and so on and so on. And suddenly I told him, but in your country there are very few Indians, indigenous, no more. And in the next country, in Guatemala, there are 68%. He told me, oh, they have been killed. And I said, but where are they buried? Oh, he told me, it's not the same tour as the parrots. It's another road. You want to see it? I said, yes. We changed the way in the forest. And suddenly we arrived to mass grave of Indians. I say, come on. Majority of the people who come here are coming for parrots. And there is also a population buried in the forest. We need to say to stop. Otherwise, it seems usual that you kill a population because they are born and you build building, and it's okay. We cannot be Christian. We cannot be human. It's like animals. And so, for me, my passion is not only for the past, it's for the future. Because actually, in many countries, they are doing that, and they think, okay, they will forget. So I would say we are passionate about life. It's why we don't want life to go on building his house on dead corpse.
Thank you.
During your research, what did you find was the most disturbing thing that you saw?
There are so many things disturbing, you know. So I think the most disturbing, perhaps, when you knock at the door, you say, hello, man, there is somebody, and they open the door, and when I see the face of the people, before they speak, I don't know if they kill Jews or if they save Jews. They have the same face. And me, when I was your age, I was thinking that the bad people have awful face, big ears and something strange in the hair, and that the other were very smiling and nice people because they saved Jews. They are the same. There is only one humanity, and for me this served me a lot at my age to discover that finally you can be a killer, finally you can be a savior, finally you can be a spectator, and nobody will know. They are like you, like me.
Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering if your team has run into anti-Semitism in the local population in the Ukraine.
I'm not a specialist about anti-Semitism. You must understand, we are very focused on the crime. It means, by example, I remember I interviewed a man, his mother was working in Gestapo to clean the soil. And so I asked him, oh, you were a child? He said, yes. You were in school? Yes. At which time was finishing the school? At 5 p.m., okay. And your mother, she worked until 7, okay. So when you went back to school, you went back to your home or to Gestapo to see your mother? He said, I went to Gestapo to see my mother every day. So for me, he's the best witness. My question is not, do you like the Jews or don't you like the Jews? He says, were you present at the shooting? I am really investigation. The second thing I would say is that in many countries I have bodyguards. Because in some countries like Russia and so on, you need bodyguards. So as I say, when you are with bodyguards, you have much less anti-Semite.
You mentioned that there were propagandists or people that are in denial and ignorant of the terrors that occurred. I was wondering if you happened to come across them or interviewed them in order to use it in your research?
They don't make research. They only make long text, say it didn't exist. It's like if you tell me now there is no snow in Winnipeg, and you made me a long topic, say, Father, there is no snow in Winnipeg, and I can explain you there is no snow, I would listen to you and I would say, thank you. And it's the same. You cannot argue because they don't argue. They don't want to discuss. They want to destroy. It's like if you speak with Himmler and you ask him, do you like the Jews, Mr. Himmler? Of course. So I encourage not to discuss with them. I encourage to fight them by teaching the new generation that the genocides are still existing. Don't misunderstand, there are deniers for every genocide. It's not only for the Jewish genocide. One day we built a symposium in a university in Belgium about the deniers. I spoke about the deniers of the Jewish genocide. But there was a girl from Rwanda, and she explained the deniers of their genocide. And there was an Armenian girl, and they explained the deniers of Armenian, etc. It's the same for a killer. When you see a killer in the TV, you say, I didn't do it. Most of the time. It's a way to survive too, but it's also a way to be a bad guy. So I understand your question, but we don't study them, we don't argue with them, we fight them in teaching.
Thank you for the clarification. That was a very proactive approach.
You research and you uncover such darkness for so many people. Where do you see the hope? Where do you see the hope in humanity? Are there small glimpses of it?
I see the hope in you. I see the hope in new generation. For example, I gave a conference in 18 Chinese schools in Hong Kong, people your age. And I was surprised, they were as numerous as you today, and all Chinese. And I was wondering why a Chinese from Hong Kong can be interested in Holocaust. They are not European, they are not Jews, they don't know Europe most of the time. And you know, I asked them at the end, why are you so interested? They said, we want to study Holocaust to fight against any new genocide, because all the genocide copy each other. And actually they realized that nobody built a camp like Auschwitz, but shooting like that everywhere. So actually it's a model. And so for me, I am optimist, because I travel nearly all over the world, and all over the world you find young people who say enough is enough. And do you remember the first person who raised a question here? It was how we can help you. For me, this kind of question, this kind of person is the hope for tomorrow. You are the hope of tomorrow.
What was it like finding these graves, and how did you feel?
It was a shock, because I was thinking nobody could find it. I always was thinking that the genocide was secret. I didn't realize that everybody was going to watch, like a spectacle, like a show. So for me it was a shock. And at the beginning I couldn't even make interview. I stopped the interview after 20 minutes to say, thank you, merci beaucoup, c'est assez. But I say, okay, Patrick, if you are not strong enough to bear that, how you will fight the actual mass killers? So we train our people to be strong and not to be frightened. But first, it was really a shock to know.
Thank you.
Father Dubois, I'm a Holocaust survivor, and after living in wonderful Canada for 60 years, I decided to go back to the Ukraine to see if I can find the grave of my father. When I was there looking for it, the response that I received, I was quite shocked, because I didn't realize how deep the roots of evil and anti-Semitism can exist into other generations. I admire your work and I respect it. You did not complete the sentence from Genesis, because in Cain and Hevel, when God asks him, where is Hevel? He says, I am not my brother's keeper, or am I my brother's keeper? You have chosen to be your brother's keeper, and I hope the students can take example from you. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say also, if you know people who want to go back to Ukraine or to Russia or to Moldavia to find what happened, we can help you. Actually, Yarad, we receive many letters from families from America, from Canada, from Australia, Israel, with always the same question: in which mass grave is my mother? In which mass grave is my uncle? And so we reconnect. And I will give you an example. A family from Los Angeles was looking to know what happened to their family. They knew that they lost 17 people. We connected them to the village. They went back to the village with people from our team to make the go-between. Because if you go directly like that, it's like a stone on water. And they were surprised. First, they were welcome. And secondly, strangely, they find an artist who painted the killing. So they found a painting of the shooting and the mass grave, and they recognized in the painting their grandmother and grandfather. So they bought the painting, and they gave us the painting. And it was a complete changement for all the family, because finally they could bury them and put a memorial. So we are helping many families actually to have a grave in Holocaust. We are also helping the gypsy to have a grave, because they don't know also what happened to their family. So don't hesitate. Contact us through the website. I employ a person full-time only to answer to the families.
Hi, I was just wondering, you told us that your grandpa had been in the Holocaust, and he just told you a slight story about what had happened to him. I was wondering if you'd been, like during your research, if you'd found what had happened to him during the Holocaust.
It's a good question. It's complicated to know, because he was sent in a camp, and for the moment we never find back the archives. The Germans say the archives are lost, and perhaps these archives are in Soviet Union because it has been taken by the Soviet. What I know is that they were working every day, the French, and on the other side, the Jews. And I will give you an example. I interviewed a survivor of a camp of my grandfather. He said we were working, and just near to us there were Jewish girls pushing carts without animals with their children. And it was a summer, it was very warm, and the Jewish children were very numerous and making a lot of noise. And so the German guard, he couldn't bear the noise of the children. So one by one, he killed the children on the cart, smashing their head. And he said at the end of the evening, there were only the mothers. And he said, only to remember that for me is a nightmare. So I will never know why my grandfather saw himself, because he's passed away. But I'm sure that happened something very special that makes I am here today.
Thank you.
Do the governments of the countries you go to cooperate with you?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. First, we are not politic. We don't accuse the country. We are not running after the killers. We are running after the victims. And so we are an organization no more small, but not huge. And we try not to make noise. So for the moment, I would say most of the time we are not a cooperation, but no obstruction of what we do. And they know what we do because they know that we make conferences, topic, but we know also we never accuse the country. So I would say I am also very strongly helped by the French government, by the German government, and by the American government. But I tell you the complete truth. If I have a problem with one country, I will not tell you here because I don't want to lose my visa.
I actually have a couple questions. First of all, I know you speak with a lot of witnesses and victims and things like that, but do you ever get anyone kind of from the other side? Like, do you ever speak to anyone who is like a shooter or like anything like that?
Yeah, I interview people who were teenagers, because I am late. So the people I interview were 16, 15, 17 maximum, and perhaps 10 years old. So in many times, yes, sometimes they know their family killed Jews. And they explain it, at that period it was legal to kill a Jew or a Gypsy or a disabled people, so they explain it very quietly. Yeah, I know for you it's strange, but it's not difficult for them to explain their family killed Jews.
Yeah. And I have another question. How do you sort of like honor the graves of these people after you find them?
So, first, they know, on our website, in a few weeks, you will have access to all the witnesses, because we are preparing a Google map, an interactive map, and you will be able to pinpoint. You will be able to join Vine on Facebook, but also on internet. So I hope they will give you the connection to our Facebook and to our internet. And don't hesitate, put your address and you will receive it. So we explain the people they will be accessible for the memory of the world. And for them, it's a great honor that their memory is saved and that finally their voice will be heard by any new generation.
Thank you very much.
Hello. What stories of resistance have you heard from some of the witnesses?
Depends the country. In Belarus, it was full of partisans, so we interviewed many partisans who were fighting the German. My first witness in Belarus, they were saving 15 Jews. And one Jew was hidden under the sofa of the house. And suddenly one German arrived in the family and he found this Jew. And with a knife, he took all the skin of the Jew of the back out in front of all the family. And after he brought him to kill him in the mass grave, and so on. And the woman that we interviewed, she was very old, she entered in the she was Belarusian, she entered in the partisan. And she told me very proudly, I killed myself 40 Germans. We have also Jews who entered in partisan group in Belarus and also were fighting and killing Germans. It's also another page of the story. People must not imagine that Jews were waiting on a chair, the killer to come in their home.
After all the research that you've done,
how far do you want to take it? Like, when will you be satisfied with everything you found?
It's a good question. I tell you the truth, I don't know. Actually, we are asked by many countries to do the same. And we are building a network, a Yarad network. Yesterday, we made the inauguration of a center in Brussels, in Belgium, for the Roma genocide, with a team of Roma. It's very unknown, and you had no image here, because people don't want so much to see it. And so, my line is, I am not alone. We have one group in America, we have one group in France, we have one group now in Belgium. We want to make a Yarad network of people who are really willing to fight concretely against genocide. Because we see many symposiums, many things with good people. But who goes to Darfur today? Who goes to Rwanda today? Who goes to Congo today? We cannot speak of genocide only 50 years after. So we are ready to train people who have the will to pass a summer or some weeks in a complicated country to save the memory of what happened, to bring back the evidences. So we are connected also to well-known journalists and so on. We are at a transit step in my organization. But if God wants, I want absolutely that we perform that. We are the specialists about Holocaust by bullets in Soviet Union, but this genocide is the actual model for all the modern genocide. They do the same in Syria today, they do the same in Darfur today. And if I have the opportunity to send a team in Darfur, it will be very quick.
Thank you.
Although you talk about hope in the new generation about the Holocaust, I still notice a lot of ignorance about it and a lot of people who really don't care. And I'm just wondering what we can do to make sure that the Holocaust never gets forgotten.
You will have always a majority who will not care. The majority of people want to sleep well. So they say, there is a huge genocide, but it's my birthday tomorrow, so I will have a party, and so on and so on, and the life is passing. The strategy is to network the good people. So if you have around you a small group of people who care, here is the arm against the genocide. Me, I don't believe in a strategy of majority, but in a strategy of minority. The people who saved Jews during the war were a minority, but they did it. The people who stopped the war were a minority, but they did it. We have actually to network the good people, and I'm very optimistic, as I tell you. If you are a group of young people of Winnipeg who want to be trained against genocide, I'm ready to come back.
I want to thank all of you for your wonderful and insightful questions.
If you want to call the address.
And there are cards here if anybody wants to come and pick them up. And I know that Roberta has a few words to say. I also want to thank Father Desbois for everything and for answering all your questions and for his presentation today, but I will let Roberta thank him more properly.
It has been an honor and a privilege to have you here with us today to share your incredible story. The impact of your speech will stay with us for many years. The rich history of the victims that were lost, but with the knowledge and learning, we will not let this ever happen again to any people, to any race, or any religion. I thank you very much.